Hello mga ka-learners! We are continuing our journey to building our own vegetable garden. We have learned in the other lesson the importance of fertilizing the soil where we will plant our vegetables. Now, we need to make sure to protect them so that pests won't be able to destroy them. In this lesson, we will explain what pesticides are and discuss the types of pesticides used and their effects on the environment. Pests are a headache for farmers. They attack crops and waste the time and efforts of our beloved farmers. But pest attacks can be prevented using pesticides. Pests that harm plants can be classified into three groups. Number 1, harmful insects. These are insects that damage or harm plant crops. Number 2, weeds. These are harmful plants that grow with the planted crops and compete with them for nutrients in the soil, crowd them, or bring plant diseases to the farm. And number 3, fungi. These are parasitic organisms that infest plants. They damage and infect parts of the plants and may eventually kill the plants. Fungus infection on the farm can severely reduce crop harvests. There are two major techniques for controlling pests. First, the proper use of chemicals, and second, the use of environment-friendly methods. Pesticides are chemicals you apply on farms to kill pests like insects, weeds, and fungi. These pests harm or destroy the plant crops. In the chemical control of pests, the use of pesticides is employed. Pesticides are poisonous chemicals that are used to kill pests. There are three types of pesticides. Number 1, insecticides. These are chemicals used to kill insects. Number 2, herbicides. These are chemicals used to kill weeds. And number 3, fungicides. These are chemicals used to kill fungi. Even though pesticides protect the plants, it can have a negative effect if used frequently and improperly. Pesticides are basically chemical poison for pests. The chemicals applied on the farm may be carried over to the vegetable harvests that people eat. Also, the chemical poisons can be carried by the wind or by bodies of water nearby. This can poison both humans and animals if not regulated or used properly. Also, some pesticides kill all types of insects, whether they're pests or good insects. The pests are the ones that destroy or harm the plant crops, while the good insects are those that feed on the insect pests. Since the pesticides also kill the good insects, their number will greatly decrease. This will reduce the natural enemies of the pest. The pests will therefore reproduce in great numbers and develop into swarms that can destroy the whole farm. Also, some pests develop resistance against pesticides, making it more difficult for the farmers to control them. There are three types of chemical pesticides according to how long these chemicals decompose into harmless substances. Number 1, non-persistent pesticides. These are pesticides that decompose rapidly into harmless substances. Examples of this type of pesticide are the organophosphate insecticides. Organophosphates are highly poisonous, but they decompose more rapidly than the other insecticides. They don't leave harmful residue on vegetable harvests nor on the farm. Other examples of non-persistent pesticides are chemicals from plant extracts such as nicotine. Number 2, persistent pesticides. These are pesticides that do not decompose easily and may leave harmful residues for up to 20 years. Since these chemicals do not decompose easily, harmful chemicals can accumulate on farmlands with the regular application of these pesticides. These harmful chemicals may contaminate groundwater and other bodies of water near the farm. Examples of these pesticides are DDT, dieldrin, endrin, and heptachlor. Number 3. Permanent pesticides. These are pesticides that contain heavy metals such as lead, mercury, and arsenic. These chemicals do not decompose into harmless substances. They accumulate in the bodies of animals and humans permanently. When the levels of heavy metals are high in an organism's body, certain diseases may develop that may even cause death. Persistent and permanent pesticides should be used cautiously and minimally, if at all. These pesticides may cause long-term damage to the environment. They may contaminate rivers, lakes, groundwater, and even the vegetables and fruits we eat. They can even accumulate on humans from pesticides inhaled or from the fruits and vegetables eaten. Thus, it is safer and recommended to use non-persistent pesticides. Can you skip the use of pesticides and just rely on good insects to feed on the pests on your plants? That will still be quite a problem, especially when you have a big farm. If you rely only on the good insects and animals for pest control, your harvest will suffer. You should inspect and protect your farm from pests regularly. The balance of nature will allow some of the pests to survive so that the good insects and animals will have something to eat. It is unavoidable, therefore, to eliminate some of the insects that destroy crops. This kind of pest control is limited, so you are still likely to encounter pests and weeds if you use only this method. Pests are really a headache, but we can apply the knowledge we have just learned about pesticides to combat them. Let's do a quick checkpoint of the things we have learned so far by answering these questions. Number 1. Why can a large swarm of pests still invade your crops even after using chemical pesticides? Number 2. What are some good insects and animals that help control pests? Number 3. Why isn't it enough to use friendly animals and insects to control pests in farms? Number 4. Explain why it is safer to use non-persistent pesticides than permanent and persistent pesticides. Number 5. Why can't we use one type of pesticide to eliminate all kinds of pests? Let's compare our answers. Number 1. A large swarm of pests can still attack farms because many of the natural enemies of the pests have been eliminated due to the use of pesticides. The pests may also have developed resistance against the pesticides because of the frequent use of pesticides. Number 2. Any 5 among these: frog, lizard, ladybug, praying mantis, dragonfly, spiders. Number 3. The balance of nature allows some of the pests to survive so that the good insects and animals will have something to eat. These pests that survive can destroy the farm to some extent. Therefore, other pest control methods should be employed to fight the pests. Number 4. Non-persistent pesticides easily decompose into harmless substances. This way, there is minimal environmental damage. Poisonous residues do not remain, unlike in persistent and permanent pesticides. Permanent and persistent pesticides leave harmful residues on the farm and on the vegetables and fruits which we eventually eat. Number 5. There are 3 different kinds of pests: weeds, insect pests, and fungi. We therefore need herbicides for the weeds insecticides for the insect pests, and fungicides for the fungi. We need different pesticides to eliminate different pests. In this lesson, you have learned that pesticides are chemicals used to kill harmful insects, weeds, and fungi that harm or destroy plant crops. The use of non-persistent pesticides, such as synthetic organic chemicals and plant extracts, is much safer and more environment-friendly than the use of persistent and permanent pesticides. Relying on chemical pesticides alone to control pests causes heavy damage on the environment. You've learned a lot today about pesticides and chemical pesticides, but there are also other ways of pest management that are environment-friendly. Tune in mga ka-learners, because there are still more things to learn about pest control and how to protect your plants. See you next time!